conference. Today we have beautiful guests, great guests actually. We will talk with them about privacy building programs. And the aim of this conference is to raise some money for children who suffer from war in Ukraine. Okay, so introducing our great guests today. First one will be Larisa. And Larisa, please tell me about yourself a bit. Where do you work? What do you do?
Hello, everyone. I'm a data protection lawyer and a deputy data protection officer at JS Information Governance Limited. I work with an amazing team in the UK, and we have clients from different kind of sectors, kind of every sector, private sector, public sector, and we do consultancy in data protection. We have our own technology in data protection, and we take care of almost kind of all the aspects of the privacy of your company.
Okay, that's very interesting, very nice. Very glad to have you here, actually. Okay, let's move on to introducing our great speakers. Kateryna, please tell me about yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Actually, I'm your colleague, Anton. I'm working as a privacy compliance lawyer here in a legal IT group. I'm handling the privacy compliance projects, and we have this team of a few people that I'm very proud of, that we are covering a lot of these projects these days. So, given all the circumstances, I'm so glad to see and hear everyone, and I hope to see you in chat. I hope you to ask our questions, our girls, and me too. And of course, I'm waiting for you to participate and share your expertise as well, so we can build something really beautiful together.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, very nice. Okay, and we have also Shanna today. Shanna, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Yes, hi, I'm Shanna Daniel, and I am the Senior Global Privacy Manager for L3Harris Technologies. We are a global defense and aerospace company based out of Melbourne, Florida. We have about 50,000 employees globally, located in 45 countries. So keep very busy. very excited to be here today.
Yeah, very glad that you actually came and will be able to share your knowledge, your expertise with such a great topic you have here. Okay, so guys, you can also introduce yourself in chat. Tell us about yourself, who you are, why are you here, what is important in building privacy programs for you. That will be very great, and we will be very great. Actually, we're glad to have you here as well. Okay, let's start. We will start with Kateryna with your awesome topic about where the privacy program starts, what to do, and how actually to begin. Kateryna will tell you more.
Okay, guys. Great. So, well, we will start with the stars. Okay, I will talk about the key, the fundamentals of the privacy program. What is it, and what it consists of? And then we will proceed to more sophisticated questions that are covered by our girls. So, well, we'll start promptly. And here is the main topic of this webinar. It's our volunteer line. We are collecting some money to help the volunteers that covers children needs in the occupied regions, and of course the needs of the children that were evacuated from the occupied territories of Ukraine. So there is some funds that we have already raised, but we will really appreciate it if you could help, of course, in either donate or share this voice. This slide main goal is this conference to help us raise enough money to cover all the needs that these children can have. So, well, we feel very be grateful for every help and every money that you could donate to these children. So, and of course, you can see all the reports on our website. There is a link below in the footer of the slide. You can go there and see all the reports that we make. We are reporting every coin, and every cent that we have been donated. So, of course, full transparency. And okay, my name is Kateryna Dubas. I'm head of our privacy and data compliance team here in Legality Group. We are working with Ukrainian and not Ukrainian businesses and helping them to start working with Europe as well as the United States. So we have collected a big expertise and a big, experience working with different businesses worldwide. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask because, well, I will be happy to help. And we'll start with the key areas of consideration when we are building our privacy program. So first of all, there comes the decision to go and to say that, okay, we are doing business in Europe, it's official. And now we have just some questions that we have to cover prior to starting something really big. And the first concern that every business has to comply with local law. And the local law of the European Union is a GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation. And I'm sure that everyone here has already heard about it or even worked with it. So you are very welcome to share your expertise and your experience too in the chat section, for example. So, okay, we decided that we are doing our business in Europe, and we decided to build this privacy program just to make the evidence base that actually we are in compliance, that we honor the rights of data subjects, that we want them to feel safe and feel not monitored while they use our product. So there are something that we have to start. And of course, the key areas of consideration we are building the privacy program, the company-wide privacy program is important, is what we should pay attention to. And we will start with the personal data mapping usually, because we have to make an inventory of all the data assets that the company has, from the social media accounts to the actual product, for example, the software or an application or website. And of course, it comes to offline meetings and comes to events and comes to networking events as well. So you just have to sit down and note down every personal data source that you have and what personal data you may probably collect or are collecting. And this is called the personal data mapping. You are writing the map of the personal data that you have and who it belongs to, who it is transferred to, and how it is protected. It's important. And of course, then we will proceed to the transfers of data in 2 dimensions. We understand what personal data, we have to understand what personal data is being processed within our company, and what we have to transfer to other, for example, to other software providers just to obtain their service. Or maybe we have some contractors that are working from different countries, and we have to consider it as a part of privacy program as well, because we have to build our safe contracting clause and policy to ensure that all the data protection issues are foreseen and are reflected in our agreements with such persons. Then we will go to the security data protection by design by default section. We will review the architecture of our product, the architecture of our website, how our consent tools are working, and whether there are any automated tools to exercise data subject right. We will work with it. We will decide what we can do to to make this decision automated, and Larisa will tell us a little bit more about that. And of course, we will talk about the security. And of all, it not only consists of the technical solution, it's usually the people who are working with the technical solutions. And of course, security encompasses a different variety of requirements that are enshrined not only in the GDPR, but in national law as well. And then we will see the human factor in action, because we have to ensure that our personnel knows and is aware of the requirements of the GDPR and local data protection law, that they know how to handle data subject requests, that they are ready to escalate and to decide what to do next in case that they encounter something really serious or really big. And for this purpose, we have to build this privacy-friendly corporate environment where every member of the team works towards the privacy compliance, and they understand how important it is for the company as a whole. It is important because the GDPR has in its center the request handling infrastructure. For example, it has the rights of the data subject and it enshrines them. And of course, it imposes and the corresponding obligations on the data controllers and data processors to respect these rights. And of course, helps data subjects to exercise them and follow them in the attempt to regain control over their personal data. So it is important that everyone knows the rules, everyone knows the handbook and playbook, and everyone is ready to handle the request or escalate it to the person that is responsible for such things. Then we will go to the data protection principles and the accountability principle as a general mean of privacy program, because it's a set of documents that helps to understand how the company respects personal data and does it even whether it does respect them, of course. How the company employees and contractors has to handle any data privacy related issues and requests, and whether there are all the assessments done and carried out and documented in time. So, well, yes, it's one of important considerations too. And finally, maybe the most important area of consideration is who is responsible for the GDPR compliance or privacy compliance. Is it a privacy manager or a DP, or is it a team or only one person? Whether they should be an in-house specialist or whether they should be outsourced, it's all there is considerations that have to be done prior to any serial data processing takes place, of course. So we'll then proceed to the step-by-step approach. We understand that there are a lot of questions that we have to cover before we start our processing, before we start working with the European business, for example. So what to do next? Where shall we start, for example? And of course, we will start with the designated responsible person, as you can see, because we have to know that there is somebody who is responsible for everything, somebody who knows what is the status, where should we go next, what should we do, maybe what work that is aimed at achieving more privacy or friendliness are in progress and what is completed, and maybe some help that this person needs. So we have to designate a responsible person. It can be a privacy manager, it can be a data protection officer, it can be, for example, a privacy champion of each department that you have, but there must be a responsible person, somebody who knows what is going on and where we go next. Of course, then we will start with mapping all the data items, the data flows. They can be executed in a table or maybe a diagram that can be as you please. As the solution that is more useful for you is just perfect. You can write it graphically, you can write a table. It's perfectly okay with you as long as every personal data item that you have is actually reflected in this data map. So it's important to know. Apart from personal data, you have to, of course, reflect data processing actors like third parties, employees, maybe some software that you use to process this data, of course, the purposes, and the duration retention period of this personal data, the legal base, because it's always very important to understand whether you need this data at all. And finally, is the technical and organizational measures of security. So you see, it's a lot of work, and maybe you will have to engage all the company and all team members that you have to start to kick off this privacy project. So, well, it's important to understand that you have somebody who handles such things, such as privacy manager. Then you will have to ensure that the suitable legal bases are chosen, because you understand that data minimization and purpose of processing are two most important principles of data protection that are enshrined in the GDPR. So any data that is excessive, any data that you no longer use, that is no longer used, or that you just don't understand how to process, or why have you collected it in the first place, you have to delete it. And to understand which data is excessive, you have to ensure that all personal data items that you reflected in your data map are covered by the suitable legal basis. So it's important to understand before all the documenting begins, for example, too, because you have to reflect it in the documents requested by the accountability principle as well. Then you have to delete the necessary and excessive data, and it's important because only the data that you need to provide your service, or maybe to achieve some other legal, legitimate purposes that you have as a business, for example, ensuring that the product is safe and it doesn't leak any personal data. It's important, and any unnecessary data that isn't used for such purposes to provide business or to achieve the legitimate business goal is unnecessary, excessive, and you have to delete it because it's the safest way to achieve the GDPR compliance too. After that, you review the technical organizational measures put in place. It corresponds with the requirements of security and data protection by design and by default, also to major parts of the GDPR that you have. And you will review them together with your development team, the software engineers that you work with. And of course, you may review them with, for example, pen testers. You may ensure that there is some other certification put in place to understand that you are actually protecting and securing the personal data that you have. It's important, but it needs some time to review, and maybe it needs some dedication and attention from your IT guys and girls. After that, you will have to document everything that you have found, everything that you have deleted, and that you decided to do with personal data. You have to document it in a policy, in a procedure, maybe in a notice, or you have to carry out an assessment to understand whether you can process this data or not, or maybe that you have to report something to the supervisory authority or not. Every decision that you make has to be documented and has to be spread among your personnel and among your contractors that have the level of access to process personal data that is trusted with your company. So, well, yes, you have to document everything to cover the accountability principle of the GDPR. Then the company has to check itself against the criteria of Article 27 as a representative if your business is not registered in the European Union. With Article 35 is data protection impact assessment, and Article 37 it's data protection officer. Sometimes data protection officers and data protection impact assessments are mandatory. It's not like volunteer or maybe an initiative that is coming from your organization. Sometimes it's a mandatory requirement. So you have to check yourself against this criteria to understand whether you actually need to designate to carry out a DPIA. So, well, it's important because in case you don't have these things, you don't have this person actually designated, I mean the DPO or DPIA carried out, you may well receive a fine. So it's an important thing. And then you will have to invest some time in preparing the personnel to take all the data breach incidents, data subject requests. You can achieve this via webinars, via workshops, via policies and procedures, via onboarding activities, via training events, via any training that you can think of. Anything can be used to raise the awareness of the GDPR requirements and the security requirements that are enshrined in the national law and the GDPR. So it's important to invest because anytime any employee that is aware of the GDPR requirements, he or she may see that there is something that is actually odd in terms of the GDPR privacy compliance, so that is not really suitable with the privacy program that is in place, and you can report to your privacy manager or your DPO, and you can notice it and enhance your compliance before a data subject or a national supervisory authority will notice it, and it works for the benefit of the company in a whole, and of course for the benefit of the data subjects too. Finally, you will have to plan the review of the privacy program. Once you covered all the 8 steps that are reflected on the slide, it doesn't mean that the privacy program is completed. It should be archived and maybe sometimes looked at. Not at all. You have to ensure that there is ongoing compliance review is going on. That every aspect of your privacy program is review it regularly, that you have the track of changes that was made over time, that you understand where the enhancement of this privacy program goes, and of course that you are sure that your privacy policies, that your privacy notice and procedures and assessments are actually accurate and are prepared honoring the requirements of the GDPR, of the local law, of the guidelines of the European Data Protection Board and national authorities, and of course that they reflect the approaches that are taken by supervisory authorities when they decide on fines. So it's important to understand that the privacy program is an ongoing thing that must be done every day, every month, every year, and it must be planned so you know where to start and where to go next. And finally, we'll talk about the process and the characteristics of the process of building this privacy program. Responsible person should have necessary resources in means of time, in means of team, for example. Maybe he or she needs some help with handling some documents, of course, financial resources, material resources, like a place where he or she can work on, a table, a computer, anything else. And of course, access to software, to textbooks, to fine registers, to stakeholders. So each time the person needs to do some research or to understand how the data is processed, he or she can go to the software and use it to understand what he or she should do next. Planning is really crucial because you have to understand, once you start building this privacy program, you have to understand where you go with it, what time will take to prepare a data map, what time will take to review all the security incidents that were actually occurring in the past. Every of these items or the steps require some time, and of course your team is always tasked with other tasks too. And you have to find this time too. So where is the deadline? You can discuss with each team member what he or she should do next to not to violate the deadline. So it's an important thing too. And it's an important thing to get things done. As you know, without deadlines, usually we don't progress on any projects. The next, privacy manager and stakeholders must meet regularly and report on progress. Building privacy program is an ongoing process. It's the first, and secondly, it's lengthy progress. It takes months, it takes years. So sometimes we just lose this purpose that we are going for. And of course, there's some meetings, regular meetings, help to remember what is going on and why we are doing this in the first place too. Next, we have to include those recent developments and laws and maybe fines, because it's important not only to see how it's written in the law, but how it is enforced to enhance our privacy program and understand what is unorthodox, to understand that we're actually in compliance and can and help any data subject with their requests too. And then personal contactors again, because people and human resources are very, very important in working with privacy and data protection. Personal contactors must be encouraged to assist the privacy managers. They must have the proactive stand. Once they see anything that is strange or weird, or maybe not in compliance, maybe suspicious, that have to report it to the privacy manager. So he is a responsible person, knows what to do next and maybe advise them on the next steps. And finally, any processes, incidences, and findings or other departments that can affect the privacy program, again, it's about the proactive stand, must be reported to the privacy manager proactively and immediately, because sometimes there are very stringent time limits imposed on some actions, and privacy manager has to handle them on time. And well, assistance from every employee, every contractor means a world when there is only seconds to decide what to do next. So, of course, it's very, very important. And finally, we will finish with evidence of compliance. So you understand that if you have this privacy program, you have to demonstrate somehow that the company is in compliance with the GDPR indeed. So what is evidence of compliance? It's maybe a presentation, it may be a map, it may be some marketing or sales toolkit piece. It can be anything that you can think of that helps you to explain how the company actually performs its duties with regard to the GDPR, and how it has prepared for the GDPR in the first place. What should be done to draft this evidence of compliance piece? You have to understand what embodiments of compliance you have. Maybe there are some technical and security measures that are visible on the website, for example. Maybe there are some policies imposed on some key employees, such as customer care team. Maybe there is some training records that you have that all the personnel is aware of the GDPR requirements. Everything can go to this evidence of compliance presentation, for example. Of course, in this evidence of compliance, you have to address the company's activities and not reveal any confidential information, because sometimes the security specifications, the security settings, for example, they can be actually very, very sensitive in the means of security of the company. So you have to balance the transparency about the compliance with the confidential information, the protection of personal data in the first place. And finally, it can be based on the frequently asked questions of the vendors, of the clients, data subjects, stakeholders, maybe some other companies, and sometimes competitors, because it's important to understand where the market stands and what is a common approach to the GDPR. Okay, well, I hope that you will be able to start your building program with this little reminder that I made. So thank you all for attention. Follow us in the social media if you have any questions, or please write them in the chat. So I will be happy to help you with the compliance too.
Okay, Kate, thank you very much for such a great speech. I had something with my camera, so now I will be like this. Okay. So please tell me, maybe in a few words, like maybe a little conclusion. Imagine me or you, I don't know, CEO of a company who wants to implement privacy actually. And in this case, what should be his first action? Should he go to his financial
manager, I suppose? Well, the first step is always planning. And the first, not even planning. The first step is to decide that we are actually working on this privacy program, that we're going to build it, that we are going to invest some time and resources in it. And of course, it's an important decision because it can be very costly in some cases. So it's an important decision. It has to be made, and then we go to planning, and planning is crucial as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And one more question maybe from me, and then from Larisa or from Shana. Okay, and is there a point where you can stand and say, okay, my privacy program is finished, I can go rest now? Is there some point, like, can you reach that?
And of course not, because anytime a new law may be adopted, maybe a new guideline can be issued, there can be a great fine that everyone is shocked with, such as Clearview, for example, Facebook, or maybe Google, anything else. You have to review your third-party vendors all the time, because sometimes they change their privacy notices too, and they change their privacy approaches too. And everything of it takes time. it's always so very different. There's always changes, and you have to invest a lot of time just to ensure that you are that you have all the risk on the table and you know how to handle them. So of course, no, there is no finish line with this.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, maybe a little question for Shana. I feel myself like a school teacher, because a question for you, a question for you. Okay, Shana. So imagine yourself. Maybe you was in such moment like, okay, you have to start a new privacy program. What are your thoughts? Like in a company, what would you first think of? What you have to do? Like, what will be your first thought?
I think one of the first things that you need to consider is what type of a program do you want to build? Is it going to be centralized, decentralized, or hybrid? Because that's going to impact the entire layout of your program. So once you've established that, then you can kind of go from there and get into all of the other technicalities. But without knowing that core of it, you really kind of can't go from there. And there's not a right answer. They're all good in their own ways. There's just a right answer for each company. So it's really important to evaluate the priorities of your company, the way that your company runs. Some companies are centralized. So if you have a centralized company, then it makes sense to have a centralized privacy program. So really, be thoughtful in the design of your privacy program would be my advice.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Larisa, a little question for you regarding the case topic. Okay, so you have a topic like is about automation, about privacy tech, all that stuff. Can you imagine that some kind of artificial privacy manager will start a privacy program in a company, or we will still need some human factor in nearest years?
I'd like to answer to your question, but it's actually the core of my presentation, so I will answer it during the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Kate, it was a great presentation. I think it was really like step-by-step guide for those who wish to start, and I believe that it may help them to understand that it's important, and it will help to make the privacy world better, I think. What do you think?
To me, the most important decision to carry out this DPIA and start the project as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Please stay with us because we will need you to ask new questions to our next speakers, maybe to answer on questions regarding their topics. Okay, so next we have Larisa, who actually told us she will tell us about artificial privacy manager. So that let's talk about automated means of compliance. So Larisa, I give the virtual microphone to you because I don't have actually the microphone. Okay, so please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, and it's a pleasure to be able to support this charitable event for the second time. I'm very happy to be here, and I really want this event to be at least as successful as the previous one. So today I will be speaking about automated means of compliance. You already heard my presentation at the beginning of the webinar, so we shouldn't go into that detail. So first of all, the first question that we need to ask is, should we replace DPOs? And that's exactly the question that Anton asked some minutes ago now. Whenever I am in the position to make a decision, I like to weigh to balance the advantages and disadvantages. And this is what I want us to do right now. So the advantages of making such a decision is that we would have faster results and efficiency, and these two go hand in hand because it's the way to obtain quick results and to go on the route for being aligned with the legislation. It's also providing you with less need for scheduling meetings, or even no need for scheduling meetings as we could think about it. And a software, a virtual assistant as a DPO, might have the ability to speak simultaneously different languages. And that means there is wider geographic coverage, and it's a benefit for both the creator of the software, because it can sell the software in different countries, on different continents, but also for the user, because it doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, you can still use the software, and it's easier for you to understand what you need to do. And the last but not least is having reduced and clearly estimated costs. Now, what I mean by this is the fact that sometimes there might be unexpected circumstances that your contract didn't predict. So sometimes, or not even the contract, maybe the monthly tasks that your DPO wanted to achieve might change during the month, because you might have a data breach, and you can't really predict when a data breach happens. So that might add additional costs to the monthly payment. And while having a virtual DPO, you clearly know from the beginning which are the services that are provided and covered, and kind of no additional services to be added. In general, that's not the case if you take a software with different packages, but we talk in general. Now, on the other side, the disadvantages of having a virtual DPO. So a virtual DPO doesn't have the ability to interpret the legislation on their own, and neither the ability to stay up to date on its own. And these two are intertwined because they require time and human resources that feed updated laws on a constant basis and check the correctness of the information that is fed there to be updated, to be correct, to be in line with the requirements of the law. Another disadvantage is that there's no ability to respond to an unexpected event. So that's exactly what we discussed in the previous point, that you clearly know what your service covers, and the creator of the software knows from the beginning what situations are covered. So it's not like, well, this happened right now, it's the first time it happens, the creator of the software didn't think of that before, so what do we do now? Well, that's why a human DPO is actually necessary there. A virtual DPO, a software in this way, doesn't have the ability to listen and to provide you with tailored solutions. And that's kind of the essential aspect. I realized soon after I started working in this field that a DPO is somehow like a doctor. So you need to listen to what your client has to say, what are the main issues, what's going on there, and what is the right direction, the right route to take in order to be in line with the law and to make your client happy at the same time. And if you have a software, again, you know from the beginning which are the routes that can be taken and which are the routes that should be taken and in which situations. So it will be with tailored solutions, not at all. It will be with standard solutions for every client that faces the same situation. We might change the slide now. I'd like you to see this slide as having two statements. One of them is true and one of them is false. It's like a game. So the first one says software could replace human interaction only for certain purposes. Now, this means that we could have a software, automated means of compliance, for certain processes that could be, for example, for data retention. You might have a software that tells you, informs you when there are 10 days until you need to delete the data, or how much longer you can store it for. Or a software that helps you with handling data subject access requests or maybe other requests, and that scans data for you. Contrastingly, the other statement says software could replace human interaction for a whole compliance program. Now, in this case, the statement means that we could have a software that totally replaces the DPO and takes care of any process that your company goes through in a compliance program. Now, in my opinion, the first one is the true one. So you could have automated means of compliance, but for certain processes. Even if would love to have a virtual assistant, a virtual DPO to take care of a whole compliance program. That's simple utopia right now. And that's because we have that human component that needs to be there, that needs to verify the facts, verify how the law applies, how the law is interpreted, a bit more than just reiterating requirements and articles of data protection laws. Now, we'll discuss in the next slide the solutions available on the market. Now, this won't be an analysis of the market and of the competition. It's rather a moment when we analyze the values that you should look for when you want to engage with such a service provider or to buy such a product, such a software, because there are some principles that you should really check for being there to tick in the boxes. So this is a non-exhaustive list like the previous ones. And you should check for that automated means of compliance to be feasible. And that means you want it to be as practical as possible, to be easy to use. You don't want to further complicate the process of trying to be compliant with the requirements of the law. You want it to be on the long run. You don't want to spend money on something that will help you only for 1 month or maybe 2 months. Secondly, you want a software that has sufficient human interaction. So as we already discussed, we need the assistance of or the guidance of the real DPO, someone that is an expert and has solid knowledge in the field of privacy. And that is the third point. And the last one, and I'm very glad that Kateryna pointed it out as well, is the review mechanisms. So we already highlighted that it's not sufficient to just build the privacy program, or in my case, to use the automated means of compliance, to feel like you're very happy that your data subjects are protected, that their data is stored securely and processed securely. It's not sufficient. It's not enough. You need to have solid review mechanisms in place, and that includes procedures and policies at the same time. Now, the last points that should be discussed are how the data is fed in the systems. So it's important to check the source of the data. Now, there are softwares that just link to search engines, and every time a law is amended or there's a new law enforced, it just updates the software as well. Well, I'm not really sure that's the kind of software that you like to use in your company. And that is because sometimes that data is not verified, because technology and laws in general are at a constant pace of development, and it's not easy to have automatically updating these databases. And this takes me to the next point, which is liability, and in GDPR terms, accountability. Now, if you're a company and you buy such a product for automated means of compliance for certain processes, who is accountable, who is held liable if that software told you to do something unlawful? Well, just as in the case of a DPO, the company is still held liable because you knew from the beginning that your software, or maybe you didn't know because you didn't check, that software is fed with data that might be incorrect or is not constantly verified. At the same time, you might go for the service provider or for the creator of the software based on contractual liability because you have a contract when you buy that software. And that means they usually promise that they would provide you high quality services and constant updates and correct information and so on and so forth. Now, what I can tell you as a practical input from our company is that at the moment, we do have software and technology that helps with handling DSARs and data discovery. And we're currently thinking of expanding the product and the development of it. Now, these values need to be in any kind of product that you want for privacy compliance. And it's very important not to forget that not any process can be automated, because sometimes there are requirements of the GDPR that cannot be transposed to being automated, so an automatic process, because they require interpretation, as I told you, and they require a rationale that is more than numbers and databases. And data protection in general is very dynamic, and by standardizing the whole work of a DPO, we would create unnecessary limitations. So it's a very interesting and fascinating thing to have automated means of compliance in the field of data protection. But it's very important to know where the limits are and what processes can be transposed in this field and what processes cannot be transposed. And in my opinion, just to reiterate it, it's not really possible to have good results or brilliant results with automated means of compliance that cover everything that a DPO does. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them.
For such a great speech, actually, it was really interesting to listen to you, and I got myself on a thought that maybe in 5 or 10 years we will have some kind of software that is based on machine learning or artificial intelligence, and it will like talk with me like a real DPO and tell me what to do. But in any case, in a contract, they will have something like, you can listen, but it's your decision to do everything, and it's your risks, something like that. Okay, so do I understand it right that your main concern for now is that software is quite an assistant, but not a DPO in a company?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, let's begin our questionnaire to other speakers about the topic they did not present. Okay, so Shana, what do you think of using a software by the DPO? Is it possible for the DPO or for a privacy manager to work without software at all? Maybe you can just print GDPR, print all guidance of, I don't know, patent 29 or EDPB, and use a pencil.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as of today, I don't use any software in my program. So, I mean, I don't use a pencil. So, I mean, technically, yes, I use software because I use Excel, I use Microsoft Word, but automated software, it's helpful, but it's not necessary, in my opinion. It's not. There's nothing written into the GDPR that says you have to use some automated software. Again, it can be very, very useful, but at the same time, there's a number of ways that you can work with your team, you can work with your program to achieve compliance manually. And so it also depends on the size and the scope and the budget of your program. For a lot of smaller companies, especially, that's just it's not feasible. Or if you design something that's, you can streamline your spreadsheets, you can streamline your documents, and you can train your folks on how to use those. It just depends on what you want for yourself.
Okay, so you actually create value by using some more basic software, but it helps you to present everything to your team. Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Kateryna, maybe a question for you, also not regarding your topic. So I know, I have a feeling, that a lot of possible clients, say maybe possible clients of Larisa, like they think like they can buy some software, I don't know, some Chrome extension, WordPress Chrome extension for their website, and it will make them compliant forever. I know that there are a lot of software like this on the market. Do you think that by making some combo of this software, you can actually fill this role of privacy manager? Or do you still need someone to understand at least the basics of GDPR? Maybe some lawyer, I don't know.
Well, my opinion is that this software, is it automated or not, can be regarded as a resource that the privacy manager needs. for example, you have a high load of data subject requests and you have only one person that is paid for handling them because you can't afford more. Software is a cost-efficient way to help your privacy manager to ensure compliance, because this solution will help them to understand what is in work, what is in progress, what is a report on this data subject request, for example, because you can't afford, for example, appointing a whole team to work on this privacy tasks, for example. So, well, I consider the software at this point of time and history as a resource that is needed to, actually sometimes really needed to help to achieve compliance. On the other hand, we have some processes that need automatization. For example, data subject deletion request, because you will be very tired after cleaning all the systems that the company has, because it's like a lot of manual work. It's insane. At the same time, of course, cookies, for example, cookie consent management tool sometimes really necessary, especially if it's designed by your own company to be well tuned to achieve that the consent is in fact free, given freely, and so on and so on. So, well, on some part, it's a means of compliance because you need them to achieve compliance, such as cookie management tool, for example, especially in-house development. But on the other side, it's the resource that the human needs to achieve its task and complete this role. So, well, this is my opinion on this matter.
Thank you very much. Very nice, very interesting opinion. Yes, basically, yes. Sure. Okay, so Larisa, you told us about some software of privacy discovery. Maybe you can talk a bit more about this, because it's a very interesting point for me. For example, like, okay, so you need to, I will put it in simple words. So you need to find out something in privacy. You need to find some new law in Brazil or in Canada, or how it works, how this privacy discovery works actually when we talk about software. Because I can actually Google something like privacy law in Brazil and then study it.
Not really. So it's not a privacy discovery, it's rather data discovery. So if the client wants this data discovery to happen, the software scans all the data. So it's like a scanning for the data that they have, meaning emails, archives, directories, etc. And it creates a report explaining all the data that is contained in the company, and especially whether there is personal data, standard personal data, or sensitive categories of personal data. And that helps very much because there's also precedent that there could be huge fines. See the Marriott case, when the company didn't know exactly what data they had, and therefore it's a preliminary step when, for example, is the same in that case, when you buy a new company and you take over it and you want to know what data is there, so you know how to assess your risk levels and your exposure to any unfortunate event, let's say.
So, so if I understand it right, I give you, I don't know, terabytes of data, like about information about my client, information, what do they do, what they ate for breakfast. And you tell me like something, okay, you have a profile in here, you have something new here, you have to work with this more in the details.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
that's very interesting software. And it works only with text or with images maybe, or something else?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Okay, can I show this some pictures to this software or only text?
I think it's only text, but we could develop that, because as I told you, we're in full development of the software. So right now it's only text, is the format of a report, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. I just felt myself in the future, in maybe in 5 years. Okay, so I can give the text to software and it will tell me what to do. That's great, actually. Okay, thank you very much. Just keep with us, because we will have one more great speaker today, and an awesome topic about communicating privacy, about talking about privacy in a company, talking about telling the world about privacy program. It's so important. Okay, so Shanna, I give my virtual microphone to you, and let us begin.
Thank you very much. So before I even start, I just want to thank Legal IT Group for inviting me here today to speak. And it's just such a privilege to be able to support this cause and to support Ukraine generally. With that, today I'm going to talk about building privacy awareness within your enterprise. I want to preface by saying there's really no one right way to do this. It really depends on the type of program you have, the type of company you have, your existing culture. It can seem like a very daunting task. It's a big word, awareness. How do you start? Where do you go from? But what I'm going to share are my top 3 tips and best practices for accomplishing this. And those are to get buy-in, establish champions, and train. So to elaborate on what I mean by that, what is buy-in, who's buy-in, and how do you get it? Well, when we're talking about buy-in, you have to remember when you're trying to accomplish awareness within your organization, you're not going to do this alone. Nothing you do when you're working within a privacy program can be accomplished by yourself. You have to have support. You have to have people. Even if you are the only person running your privacy program, you still cannot do it alone. Nothing in privacy is done within a silo. It's cross-functional by nature. So generally, the buy-in that you're going to need is going to be the C-suite, your direct line of leadership, and the business. How do you get buy-in from the business? Well, one of the best ways to do that is to enable the business. I think that it's sometimes challenging for privacy professionals to do that because, the business can come along and sometimes, what they want and what we as privacy professionals need can be contradictory. But you have to try to reframe your focus and reframe your mind to think of yourself as an ally. So, when the business comes to you and they have some kind of thing that they want to do, and it might sound really out there, they want to put something out there and they want to collect every single category of data under the sun, and they don't really have a good reason for it. Of course, the initial instinct is to say, absolutely not. What are you thinking? This is not going to happen. I wouldn't recommend that. Obviously, that's not what you want to do. I'm not saying to just say yes to the business every single time. That's not recommended. You want to have a compliant culture. However, what you should do is find out what is the business trying to achieve at the end of the day, because very often what the business wants to achieve and the way that they're going there are 2 different things. So maybe have a chat with the business and say, okay, that's an interesting idea, but what is it you're hoping to get at here? And let's talk about how we can work together to find a compliant way to do this. Because more than likely, you can get whatever it is they want, but you can do it in a different way. And I think that that's where there can very often be a disconnect. As privacy professionals, one of the greatest privileges we have is the ability to think creatively and use our experience and our knowledge to enable the business to build a compliant program. And if we just shut them down and we say no every single time, we run the risk of them going around us. And we don't want that, because then we're going to have a non-compliant program. They're not going to know we exist. They're just going to cut us out. And you might have a name, you might have a title, but folks aren't going to be aware of you. They're not going to be aware of your program. And you're going to have a very risky business. But if you make yourself an ally to the business, you're going to make yourself valuable. You're going to make your privacy program valuable. They're going to integrate your processes into everything they do, and it will build awareness. The next thing, when it comes to your leadership, be positive. Make yourself someone who people want to come to. It's very easy. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy, frankly, when it comes to privacy. But try to think about the folks that you like to go to on a day-to-day basis and the folks that really drag everything down, slow everything down, make things perhaps more complicated than they need to be. Who do you find yourself going to more? Make yourself somebody who you want to go to. There's no reason to be negative. So make yourself valuable, make yourself positive, make yourself a solutions-oriented person. That is going to get yourself the respect of your leadership, the respect of your business, and it's going to make people come to you, and it will build awareness. When it comes to the C-suite, one of the things that I found very valuable is building a executive steering committee. So you can meet maybe once a quarter with your C-suite, and this gives you the opportunity to sit down with them and say, hey, here's what's going on in the company. Here's what our needs are. Here's what our issues are. Here's what we need to talk about. Here's what would be really helpful if you can flow this down to your function. Tell your people this, tell your people that. Because in most companies, culture starts at the top. And one of the biggest parts when you're thinking about awareness in any type of an environment is culture. And that's what you're trying to do, is build a privacy-aware culture. So get with your C-suite. Let them know what those priorities are. And again, make yourself a value-added component to your business. Now, as important as it is to have a culture that flows from the top down, it can't stop there. How would you even know what to tell the C-suite if you're not talking to the people on the ground? And, very helpfully earlier, privacy champions were already mentioned. They are crucial to privacy awareness. They are the folks who are going to be on the ground. They're the folks in your businesses. So depending, if you're in a consumer-facing business, they might be your product team. They might be your engineering team. If you're in a B2B business like me, it might make sense to just have a privacy champion for each location. They are the folks you're going to want to work with. So talk to them. Say, okay, tell me, what's happening? What are the needs? Do we need more training? Do we need to do a fun initiative? Should we do something for data privacy day? Is there an appetite for that? I had a privacy champion once come to me and say that folks wanted to do a cake bake-off around privacy. Those are the kinds of things. And once you get more established, you can do a lot of really fun activities like that. You can do articles, you can do quizzes, you can do contests, trivia, and your privacy champions can help set that up. That's what they are. They champion your program. They get folks excited. They talk to the various elements on their locations and they say, okay, here's what's going on. And by the way, how are you guys doing? We have a privacy program. We have a privacy manager. If you have any questions, you can go up to this person. Let's get things going. And if they're having any kind of trouble, they'll let you know. And then depending on what's going on, you can flow that up to the C-suite. It's crucial. All of this interconnects. And when you think about it, it creates a greater sense of awareness. And you can't have any of that and without training. Training is probably the backbone of all of this. Now, when I say training, and this can be a very somewhat contentious topic, most people, I would say most people are aware that training is necessary. It's required under most privacy regulations. But what should that training look like? I think that most of us probably have some form of required corporate training. And typically they're, no offense to these trainings, very generic and maybe don't always apply to exactly what it is we do. And I think that most of us have had the experience where we've put the trainings on and maybe we respond to some emails as we click through, or perhaps even take a business call. We all have very busy jobs. And to sit through a training that doesn't apply to us, but we've been asked to do it, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. Okay, yep, I did the training, I get it, but how much do we really take away from it? And how aware are we at the end of the day as to the topic? So my recommendation when it comes to privacy training is to always consider what the training is and how relevant is it. And instead of employing a generic privacy training to your entire workforce and just say, okay, we've done it, everyone's trained, consider targeted trainings, because I can guarantee you a forklift driver in Melbourne versus an HRIT specialist in Germany are going to need two very, very different privacy trainings. The forklift driver in Melbourne doesn't need to know about the GDPR. I guarantee you the HRIT specialist in Germany does. And that's really, really important. And, likewise, consider an enterprise contracts professional. What they need, they'll need GDPR training as well, but it's not going to be the same as the HRIT specialist. They're going to need to know, okay, what are the various privacy regulations, even beyond the GDPR? And when and how do I need to employ the standard contractual clauses? What standard contractual clauses? What are the changes? They've changed multiple times, as we all know. And they're going to need to be refreshed regularly. That is going to sink in. It's going to apply to them. It's going to get them to sit up and pay attention. They're not just going to click through that, because it applies to their day-to-day work. And when you give that to them, it really sinks in, it spreads, they share it with people, they use it, it creates awareness, true awareness, not just a sticker. So when you combine all three of these things, your buy-in, your champions, and your training, you will have a true culture of awareness within your organization. And those are my recommendations there.
Well, it was really such a motivating speech. I feel myself so excited now. I want to go to all of our clients, put a flag of privacy, and talk about it all day long. Really, really great. It's very inspiring. Okay, thank you very much. Because as for me, it's a big problem to actually what I see. Of course, we mostly working with small and medium business, while we providing GDPR services and so on. And when we talk about small business, they are like, okay, write us some privacy policy, cookie policy, and we will be GDPR compliant. Yes? And we say, no, because we need a privacy program, and so on. I think that for now I understand that you are in a great role, because when you are inside an organization, you can, talk to people on the coffee breaks and so on. While companies like ours, for example, we are in contact, but we are in contact in chats, mostly in internet and so on. So it's maybe not so easy to talk with people like on the coffee breaks. But I think we will think something out. Okay, so it was very, very great speech. Thank you. My question for you is as follows, because I have a lot of questions for everyone today. Okay, so as far as I know, the recommendations are to persuade the head of departments that the privacy is important, and then they will talk about it and spread across their departments. How do you think which method can be used to persuade them if you work with them online? Because there are a lot of online communication, you cannot just come to him or to her to talk about privacy. Maybe you can make visual meetings, like online meetings, or maybe you can, ask them for online cup of wine. How it works?
Well, I do my executive steering committees over the phone. So I think, you don't have to do them in person. I actually have the privilege of being a remote worker. So I think that it does help. You can do all of this online. And I think one of the best ways, if you don't have just that direct access to your C-suite, start with your direct leadership, because likely they can get you that in. So who is your boss? Who is your boss's boss? Get them to persuade those people and then say, okay, I really need to get in with these folks. It's important. How can I get this meeting set up? Can you give me that intro? Can you sponsor me so that we can get this time? And go from there.
Okay, thanks. Now I will ask some questions about your topic to other people. Okay, Larisa, do you feel yourself as a privacy champion?
I believe so, yeah. I would say so.
Okay, so and what do you think it makes to be a truly privacy champion nowadays? Because there are a lot of not so truly privacy champions. What it makes truly privacy champion to be?
I think the difference when we compare someone that just reads the legislation and tries to reiterate the articles, and a true privacy champion is a person that actually understands the requirements and not just copies word by word and tells you, well, that's Article 30, that's Article 20, and so on and so forth. So it's the one that actually takes into consideration the spirit of the law, not only the letter of the law. I think that's the brief explanation.
Thank you very much. Okay, now next question for Kateryna. Okay, Kateryna, you have a lot of experience working with C-level managers and founders of tech companies. What is your idea? What is the best method to persuade them that they actually need a truly privacy program, not an imitation of GDPR compliance? Like how to persuade them that it is what do they need, but not just some papers they will put in a sofa,
Just like Shana said, to say and to show that you are an ally. You are not just an obstacle, you are a friend that they can refer to and ask what they should do next. That you are a person that is sympathetic enough to their business cause, that you understand their business models, you understand their obstacles and their purposes and goals and next plans. And you want them to achieve them, of course. That you want to actually give them warnings about some obstacles that can be in their path, instead of just saying that, no, okay, no, you just need this, and don't ask me the details. Let's press details. You should do that. You should inform them. You should educate them. You should then explain maybe some sophisticated concepts that are very understandable for all of us privacy professionals, but can be very tricky when you try to explain them to the outsiders, for example. So, well, yes, you have to show that you are sympathetic, that you are reliable, that you are trustworthy, and that you want them to achieve their goals, not just have their money for this work, and then in the day of the day, just like, okay, it's your problem, it's not my problem. Okay, so well, with the I see it shows that you are a friend. It's like the most important thing here.
Okay, so like show that you're on their side, basically, that you have the same aim.
Well, you're the person that is sympathetic with their cause, that you understand why they are doing it, that you want to achieve, that you want them to prosper, and you want them to learn from something that is really a bad path for them and for society as well. You should, well, that you're a good person, in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. And my one last question for Shana. Okay, so you said a great point. I just thought about it, that you have to be positive, that so you have to be the one people want to go to talk about and so on. I think it's a great point, and it actually works. Also, it works for lawyers, accountants, and so on, because I'm a lawyer as well, and I just thought that it is very important to be positive and happy, actually, when you talk about privacy. Thank you very much for that. Okay, it was actually not a question, but a comment, sorry. I believe that I would have a question. Okay, so thank you very much for this conference. And one more time, I was also some kind of happy today, but on the other hand, we have a war in Ukraine, and we need to raise the money for orphans in one of Ukrainian institutions. Those such children who lost their parents because of war, and now they are near Ivano-Frankivsk in one house, about 60 of them. They are good conditions, but they need like money to buy pampers, food, and so on. We already raised about $4,000. We have all the reports on our webpage, and we need more. So you can use we have a payment system in our page in the link you may see in the comments right now, and I will just put it. And you may donate even $5 or $100 will work. It's very nice. Okay, thank you very much again. Maybe a few words from each of you about to end this conference. I will say something like, like they say, like they write the speech, the words of the one. So I will say something like, okay, privacy is important and is important. And I understood that it's important to be positive when you talk about privacy. Thank you very much. Larisa, maybe you can say something.
Yeah, privacy is important. I agree with you. I think the what this conference made it very clear today is that it's important to understand all the dimensions of privacy, and that building a privacy program is not just leaving everything on the shoulders of your DPO, and that you need to collaborate with them, and that at the end of the day they are still human beings, at this point at least. So it's important to support them in any process that they need to help you with, to collaborate, to cooperate, for especially when they request data from you or guidance or any kind of documents, because sometimes there's this issue that we ask questions that we don't get answers to, and that becomes an obstacle when you build a privacy program, because everything is postponed because of that particular event. And I think this conference enhanced the knowledge of the users that viewed the conference, and that it became clear that they have their own responsibilities as well, and that well, on the other hand, that a virtual DPO is not very close to happening, so at least not very soon.
Thank you very much. Kate, maybe you will tell us something about you learned from this conference and something you would like to say as well.
I would like to thank the girls for their insights, because, of course, it's very interesting to talk to your colleagues, to understand the new perspectives, and maybe to consider some points that you missed in your ordinary work, because you are very preoccupied with your own tasks, and sometimes you need to make a step back and oversee everything that can be missed. So, girls, thank you very much for this insightful webinar. It was a pleasure just to talk to you again. And of course, I wanted to maybe share this enthusiasm, share this willingness to work with privacy, because privacy is very interesting. It's just emerging. It's developing area of compliance and law and technology, and it's something that helps us to understand how important the work as a team in the working teams is, to understand that we need to encourage this exchange of expertise, exchange of knowledge, and exchange of tools and maybe insights between us, to build this safe societies that where every one of us, including the privacy professionals, is safe. Every one of us helps to achieve sustainable goals, and every one of us makes the world a better place. And I believe that in the internet society, in the digital society, privacy is one of the crucial points where we all can survive as human species in general. So, this is it.
Okay, thank you very much. And Shana, maybe a few words from you, like to end this conference.
Absolutely. I think I would like to reiterate what each of you have said. It's been such a pleasure to listen to these presentations and to be here today. I think one of my biggest takeaways today is that there is no one size fits all for a privacy program. It really needs to be thoughtful in its design. It can't just come off a shelf. It's really program based, and you need to be very thoughtful in that. And it's a joint effort. It's a collaborative effort. At least, as we've said today, we can't just have a robot build it all. So I think that it really is a fascinating point. But I think that we need people, and we need that collaboration. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things about privacy is the human aspect.
Thank you very much. And on the other hand, we have to be positive in collaboration with robots as well. Okay, so thank you very much. Don't forget to donate to children because it's very important. And thank you all for coming. It was, I believe, a really great content to see. If you are looking at this content after the translation, please share it or put a comment. We will answer you. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.